Pleasure to welcome Martial Claudpierre. I hope I pronounce your name more or less correctly, from Veritas, who will present us innovative renewable-based fuel concepts from the shipping sector. Martial, and I understand you're joining us from China, so good evening, and also thank you for staying with us at rather late time of the day. Floor is yours.
My pleasure, Stefan. Thank you very much, Stefan and Gavin, to invite me to this exciting webinar. I'm going to share my screen. So yes, so the objective of this presentation is to show actually the today's situation of the shipping confronted as well as a big challenge, in particular from the regulatory point of view, the IMO, which is the arm from the UNO, which is dealing with shipping as a fixed a very ambitious target for shipping in order to comply with the Paris Agreement. So we have of course a different target for this long way to sustainability. We have 2030, which is aiming to reduce by 40% the amount of greenhouse gas emitted by shipping compared to a 1990 level, and there is also the 2050 target, which is aiming to reduce by 70%, sorry, the amount of CO2 emitted by shipping. So all in all, we are actually in almost in the same situation as aviation. We have to engage a large technological movement, a large technological change. From the fuel perspective, but also from the ship itself. It's not anymore cannot be dealt with operation. It's really something that has to be completely innovative, and in particular from the fuel point of view. So we have here a situation where, as exposed earlier, we are having a new design ship. A ship, a cargo ship, a passenger ship will last more or less 30 years. So the ship we have in hands now, the ships which are produced now should comply with this long-term objective. And unfortunately, this is not the case for all of them. Some of them, as displayed in this slide, are on the right way to comply, and this is in particular the case for the use of LNG as a fuel. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that LNG is the solution, but it's an available source of energy which is at least solving the pollution and partly reducing CO2 emission, partly only, but it's better than nothing, right? So we have a large vessel now which are produced with LNG as a fuel. And very importantly to be noticed is that we are considering now to have a second life for this kind of vessel, meaning that one vessel can be produced, designed and constructed with LNG as a fuel, and later on can be upgraded to a fully decarbonized fuel. And we will see which type of fuel is it. There is a slight differences from that point of view between shipping and the other transportation means. So wind, of course, this is the topics of this seminar. Of course, is a very important way to reduce. But the objective of this slide today is to introduce the situation for the fuel itself. So LNG is today adopted by is taking up. It's taking up. There is about 100, 200 ships in operation with LNG as a fuel. LNG is a fossil fuel, so it doesn't solve the long-term issue, but it's much better than having heavy fuel oil, which is today the situation. We have ships which are still using heavy fuel oil, which is maybe the most dirty fuel ever produced on Earth. So at least we have LNG, which is clean from the emission point of view, and which can reduce emission of CO2 about 20–30%. So other alternative fuel, we have a bouquet of different choice, which are less mature in terms of availability as a fuel. I mean, those are products which are from the chemical industry or the petrol industry, oil industry, which are of course well known, but not really available as a fuel for shipping. We have LPG, which is very well known for the bus, cars, etc. Ethanol, which is also used in some ship, and which is very promising. Green methanol is a kind of decarbonized fuel, and we have of course hydrogen. Hydrogen is today one of the best solutions for a small ship, which is aiming to transport on the short range, and which of course means that the propulsion system of the ship must be fully electric ship, which means that the capital expenses will be higher than today. Another way to have hydrogen as a fuel is to use the so-called ammonia. Ammonia is a very promising solution for shipping, because simply it is a decarbonized fuel, and it's a non-carbon fuel, and it can be of course produced, which is not the case today, but it can be very much improved in terms of production from green sources. So what is the situation today? We have unfortunately still oil fuel fleet, which is far in the majority. So we are late, yes, that's true. But when we look at some prediction, we might see that there will be inflection of the curves as displayed on the right hand side of this slide, meaning that we might have a possibility to meet 2050 target, provided we are making a huge effort in investment in the type of fuel, and also a little bit on the propulsion system. So today we have this, as I already introduced, these different fuel which are considered and already in use for some of them. So fossil will mean LNG, LPG, methanol, ethanol. Interestingly, there is some bridge in terms of production of LNG. So we might consider this so-called, which was a very extensively developed power to gas for this synthetic LNG, which will be a way to reduce the carbon footprint of the LNG. So we don't consider in the shipping industry, we are very pragmatic. We don't consider a fully switch over. We consider a very, progressive way to mix some synthetic e-LNG with the fossil LNG, and thus to have a drop down of the CO2 emission slowly, step by step. We have also this biofuel, oil and gas, which are already used in some situation, some shipping company are already using biofuel, liquid fuel, and for the hydrogen. As I said, it is more or less limited to a small ship already in use, but ammonia is considered as a carrier of hydrogen. So the way to use hydrogen for long trade cargo ship or passenger ship will be ammonia. So biofuel, which are already used by some big name. You see Maersk is already using biofuel as a mixed. It's not 100% fuel, but 10-15% of total fuel is from bio production. And other company like Good Fuel is proposing as well biofuel to Boskalis, which is one of the most important stakeholder in short range shipping. So if we can make let's say a separation, if we can try to sort two sectors in the shipping industry, we will have the short range ship, which are on the right hand side of the slide, which are already under scrutiny because they are operating very close to populated area. They are also navigating in emission control area, so they are already under the regulation for reducing emission. And due to their low power, they can be selected for very much electric propulsion system, and so they will be very much possible to switch to hydrogen. But for the long trade, the long trade, like the big container, big oil carrier, gas carrier, the one which are supporting the economy today, they will have no possibility to switch to electric power because the huge capex involved will definitively not make it possible from a financial perspective. What we are looking now is to use the traditional internal combustion engine and to upgrade this existing technology, which is diesel engine have been set up more than a century ago. This big diesel engine will be able to burn different alternative fuel. This is already the case. They are already used as a dual fuel for both fuel oil and gas, and tomorrow they will be also burning ammonia as a fuel. They will be slightly upgraded. From the LNG perspective, just to mention that, of course, we have this power to gas, which is very promising to reduce the LNG footprint. And methanol as a fuel. Methanol as a fuel is reserved for short range. There are some difficulties to have methanol available for ship fuel, but it is already in use for more than a decade. Ammonia as a fuel, I may insist, this is the most promising way to reduce or to eliminate carbon emission from the shipping industry. So we are now looking at the risk involved by this new fuel. It's, of course, we cannot trade environmental benefit against safety in shipping. So we are now looking with many stakeholders to see what are the risks involved with this new type of fuel. And let's go ahead because there is a huge demand. Fuel cells, limited power, but why not having fuel cells producing energy for the accommodation? This is the case in a large cruise ship where we have main propulsion system which is burning LNG, and some accommodation power is produced by hydrogen and fuel cells, of course. And electrification of ship, which is the key point for using hydrogen as a fuel. We will have to switch large amount of the short trade ship, which have a long way to go, but we have already very nice demonstrator which are using, like in the car industry, a typical hybrid power. We have a battery power to store some energy, to have a peak shaving in order to increase the efficiency of the ship, and enabling also to have online diesel electric, diesel engine and fuel cells. So this is the case for this ship that you can see here on the screen. So I'm done with this presentation. So I wanted to try to expose what are the different options from a realistic point of view. I'm not saying that, of course, there is other way. Of course, we are very much involved in the wind energy, which is fantastic. And as a human being, of course, I love sailing, so I am very in favor of wind energy. But from the fuel itself, we cannot eliminate the option of the fuel. It will remain besides the wind power. So fuel, there was a problem. We are trying to eliminate all this carbon and dirty fuel, and this was the aim of this presentation, to try to show what is the situation today. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, and I think that gives us a good overview of what is possible. Obviously, a broader range than in the aviation sector. And at the end of the day, what the aviation sector is going to, so some power to gas or liquid, obviously, is also an option for shipping. We've got a comment here regarding the role of LNG, and that's of course something that you also mentioned, or you underlined that that's not something you see as a long-term solution. I think we can come back to that when we have the final round of discussion.